And on the 104th night, when evening fell and the night draped its veil over the palace of King Shahryar, the king felt the longing stir within him once more for the spellbinding tales of Scheherazade. He rose eagerly from his court, his heart tugging him toward her chambers, with his faithful executioner, Masroor, trailing silently behind. Upon reaching the chamber doors, Shahryar signaled Masroor to wait outside and stepped in alone, where Scheherazade sat, bathed in the soft glow of the lamp, her eyes gleaming with the sparkle of untold stories. Shahryar seated himself and said with anticipation, "Come, Scheherazade, continue the tale of Sinbad and the rock." She bowed her head gracefully, and in her gentle voice replied, "At your command, my king. It reached me, O wise and noble ruler, that when Sinbad froze in terror, his eyes met the gaze of the giant bird, and his heart pounded like drums before battle. The rock flapped its mighty wings, sending tremors through the air, raising clouds of dust around Sinbad until he could barely see. The creature let out a thunderous cry, a roar like a storm's fury, then swooped low, circling over Sinbad, trying to drive him from its precious eggs. Sinbad ran with all the strength he could muster, while Jasmine flew above him, crying out in warning, "Watch out! Sinbad, watch out!" His feet stumbled more than once through the tangled roots, but the will to survive guided him toward the hollow of a great tree, where he slipped into a deep crevice. Just as the rock's talons smashed the earth around him, grasping at empty air. He remained hidden among the tree's roots for hours, not daring to move. The whoosh of wings thundered above him, and he held his breath to avoid discovery. At last, the sounds faded, and Sinbad realized the rock had drifted away, dozing beside its nest and the egg it guarded. It was then that a daring and reckless idea lit up Sinbad's mind, one that might just free him from this desolate island. "I'll sneak into the rock's talons. When it flies off to feed its young, it'll carry me far away from here." So, with the heartbeat of a war drum in his chest, Sinbad crept closer, inch by inch. He tied himself tightly with strong vines from the island's plants and secured his body beneath the massive claws of the great bird, as if becoming a part of the creature itself. With the first light of dawn, the rock stirred. It stretched its colossal wings, and with a single heave, it soared into the sky, taking Sinbad with it, on a voyage into the unknown. Sinbad rose higher and higher above sea and cloud, watching the world shrink beneath him into the size of children's toys. Jasmine, fluttering behind, chased the rock through the air, a mix of thrill and fear burning in her chest. The bird flew for hours, crossing towering mountains and endless plains, vast and mysterious, like riddles written across the earth. At last, it descended upon the peak of a mighty mountain, its summit glittering with gemstones and rubies, as the rock began to gather food for its young. As soon as the rock loosened its grip, Sinbad untied the vines with haste and leapt to the ground, rolling behind a cluster of gleaming stones before the bird could notice. He watched as the majestic creature plucked food from the mountaintop, then spread its wings once more and vanished into the sky, returning to its distant island. Only then did Sinbad emerge from his hiding place, breathless, from awe, from relief, from everything. He stood at the summit of that towering peak and beheld a sight that no eyes had seen before. Plains of gold stretched to the horizon. Rivers flowed like melted crystal, and strange birds filled the sky, singing songs from another world. Sinbad smiled and called to Jasmine as she hovered above him. "We made it, Jasmine. We survived." With a joy that came from the marrow of his bones, Sinbad began gathering as many jewels and rubies as he could carry, enough to turn any man into a wealthy merchant. Then he looked to Jasmine and said, "Now, we must find our way back to Baghdad. No matter what it takes, Sinbad set out across the mountains, his journey long and punishing, walking for days and nights, living off the fruit of strange trees and sipping from the cold streams that trickled down the rocks. And when the hardships threatened to break him, he'd raise his eyes to the sky and whisper, "O Lord, give me strength. Help me return to my beloved homeland." One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sinbad spotted smoke curling into the sky from afar. He moved closer with caution, and there, nestled among green fields, he discovered a small village, its homes made of mud and stone. The villagers were kind-hearted people. When they saw the travel-worn stranger at the edge of their land, they rushed to greet him, offering water, food, and gentle hands. They treated his wounds, gave him shelter, and in their care, Sinbad felt safe again. Within days, his strength returned. As he spoke with the villagers, he learned that their land was rich with spices, precious goods that merchants would pay dearly for. So Sinbad, ever the clever trader, bought what goods he could afford and loaded them onto a ship bound for Baghdad, paying with the gems he had gathered from the mountain of the rock. And so, Sinbad boarded the ship that would take him home. But of course, it wasn't going to be smooth sailing. Adventure, as always, had one last storm in store. The voyage began with calm seas and wide horizons. But before long, the sky turned sullen. Waves rose like mountains and the wind howled like a beast with no name. A terrible storm descended upon them. The sea darkened to the color of ash. The sky split with thunder and the ship groaned under nature's fury. Still in the heart of that chaos, Sinbad held tight to his dreams, his eyes fixed on the distant promise of home. Then, as the sun began to rise, a rooster crowed in the palace of Shahryar. Scheherazade paused, and with a soft sigh, she said, and here Scheherazade perceived the dawn, so she ceased speaking the permitted speech. King Shahryar leaned forward, his curiosity burning. "Finish it, Scheherazade. Tell me, what became of Sinbad? Did he make it back to Baghdad?" But she only smiled, the smile of someone who holds the ending in her hands, and whispered, "You shall know, my king, tomorrow night." And so the king, enchanted still, spared her life again, longing for the next chapter of Sinbad's wild, wondrous fate.